in many ways, Protestants are to Catholics like members of our family that got, abducted and raised by somebody else, and that years later finds out, I'm actually Bergsma, and comes back to the family home and is disturbed and distressed by how we cook dinner and, our family habits and the things that we do. Like, it's all weird to them because they've been apart from the family for so long. Yeah. And so this Protestant friend that's freaked out by All Saints, that's because, she hasn't been raised in the family, even though she's our sister through baptism. But then more to the point, the first part of the viewer's question there was, how do we explain to a Protestant that the truth might be in Scripture, even though it's not stated? Yeah. And I think an analogy helps. An analogy would be this. You'd say, you got a little boy and he's 6 years old. Does this boy know the formal laws of English grammar? And you'd probably say, oh, well, he could not articulate them. He couldn't tell you what a subject is and what it means that the verb has to agree with the subject in number and in person or whatnot. All of that grammatical terminology would be lost on him. But he does know that if you say table, dog, bite, that is not good English. But the dog bit the table does make sense. And he knows what proper English is and what it isn't. And if you say something like the red big truck, the 6-year-old will know that doesn't sound right, because there's actually an unwritten rule in English. I was only became aware of this recently, within the last 5 years. But there's actually an order of adjectives in English, such that we never say
the red big truck.
The red big truck. You don't do that because size comes before color in English adjectives. So it's the big red truck and the small blue truck. You don't say the blue small truck. That sounds awkward to me. Like, I mean, you know what it means, but you're like, that's not good English.
I wouldn't correct you.
Right.
Okay, he's just trying to think it through. But yeah, if you were writing it down or speaking more properly,
that doesn't feel right.
Size would come first.
Right. And a 6-year-old would say, doesn't sound right. It should be the big red truck.
Yeah.
So what you see is the boy intuitively knows the rules, even if he can't articulate them, which shows how there can be knowledge that a person has, even if they can't explicitly describe that knowledge. The boy actually knows, so to speak. And, there's these famous examples of this with Socrates and Plato, where, he teases the rules of geometry out of a boy, right?
Yeah.
And showing that there can be latent knowledge within a person. And in the same way, in scriptures, there can be latent truths that are kind of the grammar of faith that aren't explicitly stated. But nonetheless, when you're trained in this book, that's not a Bible that I don't have a Bible here. But when you're trained in this book, you kind of intuit the grammar of faith, and that's what the church does, and that's how the church develops doctrine.
That's really helpful.
Heresies come along, and the heresies are like, I think we should say small blue truck. And did I get that right? No, I'm sorry. I think we should say blue small truck, and everybody says like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like the proper grammar of the faith, And that's how they get defined. And then we become aware. We become self-aware that, there is a proper language to this. And then we write the rule down.
Yeah.
And that's what ecumenical councils do. But the mistake is to think that, the ecumenical council is making the rule.
Yeah.
They're not. They're just recognizing, through the conflict with heresy, the church comes to an awareness of what she latently believes. And then she writes it down explicitly. And then the explicit description, the formal description of the grammar of the faith builds over time.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.